All right, here to discuss all that and more, Red State Editor-at-Large Kira Davis, former Trump Senior Economic Advisor and Heritage Foundation Distinguished Visiting Fellow Steve Moore, and Fox News contributor and the president of Independent Women's Voice, Tammy Bruce. Tammy, your reaction?
Steve, great monologue, and I think that this is kind of the bluntness that reminds people about the real agenda that's been going on. You know, we hear about the deep state, we hear about the establishment. That's it. It's funny how, and we even heard when it comes to certain ambassadors and others being shocked that Trump would actually be leading foreign policy, not listening to or allowing the State Department or bureaucrats to do it, which is, quote, their job. No, it's not. Their job is to implement the agenda of the president. But it shows you, this is another thing that's now been exposed simply by the existence of President Trump, is that this establishment not only believes that they're the ones in charge, but that they have been. That presidents have been seat warmers.
It's not a paranoia. That's the thing. I mean, and we've always known there's a deep state, but where the deep state is deepest is in the State Department. All of these foreign diplomats, and by the way, they never mention when they have these people on CNN, MSNBC, they were a former ambassador, this or that. They never mention that they were Obama people, right? Almost 95% of them served under Obama. Of course, they don't want Trumpers. But I want to just add one thing to what you said. I think it's all exactly right, but I think there's a third motivation, and that is what they don't want to talk about, which is the economy. We've got the best economy in 30 or 40 years, and so they're deflecting from the issues that people really care about: jobs, inflation, wages, the economy, all these things. And so this impeachment is a way to try to deflect away from the way the American economy is going.
I sort of touched on it very briefly at the beginning with that remark that says so much from Nancy Pelosi. It's like he can't win again because they're frightened that he will. That's why this is all going on.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we kind of get in the weeds when we use language like deep state. It scares people. But all we're really talking about is what you laid out in your monologue: career politicians. Right. And they talk about these career diplomats as if that is a plus, as if that is something to be proud of. The reason we have Donald Trump is because we're freaking sick and tired of the career diplomats. We don't want any more career diplomats. That's not a good thing. Y'all shouldn't be bragging about it. Like, you should not be serving in the government for 40 years. His closing argument in the campaign was drain the swamp. And these are swamp creatures, and they don't like it much.
And Americans understand that, because there's a point where you get embedded in that system, and the system becomes the living entity.
That's right.
The system is what should be supported and defended. And Americans, of course, the founders set this up so that we could have choices about the nature of the direction of the country, who's working for us, who isn't, what works, what doesn't. And suddenly we are just cogs now for that dynamic in the establishment, that we're there to send in the taxes so that this government can become bigger and more bloated. And this is the problem with big government and the dynamic of where the focus changes, which is that, again, the state is the living entity to survive, that our voice, in fact, becomes dangerous, and of course, contempt grows. And then you see that, and then even whether it's subconsciously or not, this attempt to control us to some degree with middling economies, barely making, living paycheck to paycheck, that also silences us.
And whenever
it's a
whenever you get a conservative president like a Ronald Reagan or Donald Trump, because I've served in the bureaucracy, their attitude is, we will outlast them.
That's exactly right.
We will
and that's
still
what
be
I said.
here.
I've seen that firsthand. It's exactly the same in the UK. That's why, by the way, I wanted to use that word, the system, like you did. The system strikes back, because that's literally how they talk about it. The people in there said, well, the system won't like that when you say, I've got to move on, I'm really sorry.
Sure.
But by the way, we're coming back to it later, because the Syria thing is a great example.
The system's against
the same thing. All right.